sports flowing in their veins. Mackie and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
We got to go out there and play that complete baseball that we've been talking about. The glimpses of things. You'd rather see that than some of the things that we've seen lately. But we need to put it together. And Joe Ryan's back home right now. Got back early, and hopefully he's rested and doing his meditation or whatever it is he's doing right now, and he's ready to go tomorrow.
Oh my God, I can't with this guy. I can't with this guy.
Did you have fun last night? Like, did you not give an F and just have fun? I had fun watching that game. Like, I just decided I'm just going to have a lot of fun. So
I feel like the Astros on the road aren't the team that you don't want to have the come to Jesus, let's just have fun. Like, I would wait till that series is over and then reset with the fun meter. That's what I would have done.
I had basically a carnival going on in my house, circus clowns performing. I just had fun.
Oh,
it's a 3-run homer. Oh, look at the magical baseball. Yeah, I just had fun last night.
Amazing. Let's get into some feedback here on this Friday on Mackie and Judd. A little Feedback Friday where we take all your comments, questions, concerns, critiques, whatever it is that you want to send us to the SKOR North app, the YouTube comment section. Our Twitter @replies are always open. I think we're almost to 10,000 TikTok followers on the SKOR North account, too. Knocking on the door.
Be it more if I hadn't gotten sick.
Me too.
I'd be at practice. I missed the scrimmage. I missed the scrimmage yesterday. I damn near got in my car and went. I just could. I thought this was
trail
really
of
stupid.
blood.
I thought this would really be dumb. Don will be mad, but darn it, I almost went.
Is this? I mean, you're in the studio here. Is this the first time you've left your house since returning home from the hospital?
No, I went to the gas station to get a paper 2 days ago, and then I made a run to Cub to get some Gatorade yesterday. But this is the farthest I've been, and I will say this. This is where not taking the Oxy comes in. Because if I had taken the Oxy, I don't think I'm driving.
You're texting me to go get you some Gatorade.
Yeah, I'm not driving. So this is where
we don't want that headline on Bring Me the News.
Yeah.
SKOR North host pulled over with high levels of Oxy in his system.
I'm just going to stop. Something came to mind. I'm just going to stop right there.
Wouldn't be the first time that headline has popped up.
I have an affinity for certain people. I'm going to drop this.
Zach Spies via the SKOR North app says, just a quick look. He actually sent this before last night's game. I'm going to trust this math. We are 1-10 versus division leaders, not including Cleveland, with one win being against the Yankees. We are 6-17 when you include the Guardians. So now 6-18 against division leaders. Good. I'm going to trust that math. That is not good. The Twins are also now 10 games below 500 since May 24th. Mm-hmm. But because the division's terrible, and the Guardians and the White Sox both lost last night, you're still somehow only 4 games back in the Central despite this freefall. Mr. Rocky via YouTube says, I'll bet Jim Pohlad has trouble sleeping at night knowing he doesn't have Mackey's approval of his ownership of the Twins. Why are you defending him? I get if you hate me, Mr. Rocky, that is totally fine. If you can't stand my face on your smart TV, the algorithm puts my face on your YouTube feed. Hi, it's me, just delivering takes. Okay?
What? Yeah.
But why are you defending Jim? Why would anyone defend Jim Pohlad? Can anyone answer that? He's a billionaire, absentee, incompetent owner of a baseball franchise. Lack of curiosity for 20 years.
What I love about that, though, is this, and this is where people hate Twitter now for the most part, but this is where I love it. I love the fact that Twitter basically outs people for their beliefs in like sports teams, right? Like this is why, again, I love sports, because ultimately it doesn't matter. We're all going to die, you know? It's not politics. It's not religion. It's not life and death. But this is where I love it, because what I love is a slump like this and basically a crumbling like this causes warring Twitter factions, and you find out just how many people can't stand things that don't make sense. For instance, there is definitely a faction on Twitter that is very upset at the upset fans who, in my opinion, should be upset. Like,
Oh, yes.
Like
That's
they're
very
blocking.
meta.
Like
Very meta.
Like we have people blocking fans that are upset because the team is crumbling, which, by the way, I'm with those fans. I'd be frustrated too. I am frustrated.
Yeah.
So when you ask the question, why would people defend Jim Pohlad, which, on the surface, I'm like, I don't know, Phil, makes no sense. Because it takes all kinds. And I don't understand it, but my God, this is why Twitter to me is so valuable, because it serves as just a small sprinkling of the sample of how different people approach failures of things they like.
Well, there's so many things to debate and discuss, and you could sit here and I'll have a debate all day, and we'll probably concede. If Mr. Rocky had come in and said, "Hey, pump the brakes a little bit here, okay? Look at this long list of injuries."
Jeez,
I mean, Byron Buxton's been barely hanging by a thread all season, and Alex Kirilloff's wrist blew up again, and Trevor Larnach over here, and there's all these. Jorge Polanco can barely walk. Jorge Polanco scooped a ground ball up the middle last night. Great play diving to his left. Took him a half hour to get to his feet. That dude is not right, and he hit a bomb last night. But so I will sit here and listen to. Yeah, the injuries are. It's just maybe the Twins had a little bit worse injury luck than the average baseball team has this year, and maybe for that reason, I should not be as hard on them. But if you're coming in here saying, listen, quit being hard on Jim Pohlad, who has does anyone here's the thing about Pohlad, okay? Does anyone know anything about him? Judd, you've been watching sports in this town.
No, hell no.
I mean, the Pohlad family has owned this team since the mid-1980s, right?
84. They bought it.
84. Yeah. So for 40 years almost, the Pohlad family has owned this team. Carl was the banker, and
we knew more about Carl for sure than Jim.
Yeah,
I feel like.
But have you ever seen? And I'm not asking for him to be Mark Cuban, to be someone that he's not, but he almost has an aversion to putting any sort of fingerprint or stamp on anything. I mean, the fact that he came out last year after a disappointing last place finish and told Charlie Walters, A+, I give an A+ to the front office. Are you that scared of your own shadow that you won't even offer a whiff of public criticism for a failed season guy? He's a weird mystery man, and I will say he presides, even if he wants to distance himself, because I'm not really a baseball ops guy. I hire people to do that. He likes to distance himself from the thing that he owns. 0-18, 2-decade stretch in playoff baseball. The worst team stretch in playoff history, North American team sports.
I applaud being hands off to a certain point. In fact, I want my person, man or woman who owns a team, to not be constantly putting their thumb on those that they employ. I think that is bad business. That being said, this all comes back to what we talked about and what I said on Thursday's show, which is, unfortunately, Jim Pohlad goes into the building when it's fully engulfed in flames. He doesn't ever go in. Right now is a very good time to be asking questions. And the problem is, he's not. And right now is a very good time to be looking at, okay, it's been some time here with Derek and with Thad and now Rocco. But we've had time to observe, and we've had some success. But right now, it feels like it's going backwards, and there aren't answers to questions. The problem with the 3 losses to the Astros is this. It's no revelation to say they just kick your ass. They are a superior team. Now, that is disturbing, in my opinion, in itself, but it's different than this. My problem with the season is you just before that lost 3 or 4 to Texas at home. Inexcusable. Being swept by the Astros is disturbing, but I don't think I can come here and say inexcusable. Houston has developed a superior baseball team. Again, I'd like to know why.
Well, why is it that superior after 6 years?
I agree.
Is a question to ask.
But in 2022, in the here and now, for Texas to come to Target Field and beat you 3 or 4 is inexcusable. Yep. I believe they went to Detroit and lost 4 or 5 at one point. I'm sorry. Slumps happen, I get that. But there are enough hiccups in this season to me to raise real red flags that at least, if nothing else, I want questions answered.
And let me say one more thing on the Pollad front here. I don't think it's going to be helpful if he becomes more hands-on because I don't think he knows what he's doing. The problem is you've been, since Carl passed away, Jim has been the primary owner of this team for 15 years, something like that, right? The fact that it's been a decade and a half of him and then 30 years of his family, and he barely knows enough to be hands-on in the first place is problematic to me. And to your point, I don't know what all the answers are because I'm not sitting there. I'm certainly not qualified to pull back the curtain and diagnose. All right, these people need to go and this needs to happen here. But one of my big 30,000-foot questions would be, guys, it's been 6 years. Teams go through injuries. Totally get that. Why is there not a better product on the field in 2021 and 22? Why are the Astros and a couple of these other teams so much further along organizationally than you guys are in year 6 or whatever it is right now? And if I get 5 logical answers that make sense, smart answers that come back, okay, cool, awesome. That totally makes sense. I don't know that those questions are being asked by ownership. Maybe by us.
I have 77 replies to my tweet when I put out yesterday morning. What should I put in my reason for opting out of my season tickets? And I will say 95% of them are have you watched the games? Put Rocco. Just basically all self-deprecating things to say that the 2022 Twins stink. But there are a few that will say, "Oh, hold out. Wait for Royce Lewis to come back next year. Wait for Kirilloff to come back next year. They deserve another chance. Don't give up on your fandom yet." Number one, I have a financial commitment here, and a pretty substantial one. So if they're not going to come through for me, why would I come back to them? So I don't. From the ownership side, it's frustrating. They've obviously also wanted Joe Pollad to be involved, and he is involved with the Twins. I don't get the ownership at all. I think they kind of shoot themselves in the foot a lot with how they're perceived and with how the fans look at them. It is a very frustrating time to be a Twins fan.
I think I got it. It hit me a second ago what the response should be. Your one sentence, okay? I got your one sentence for you.
Okay.
If you really want to know, call me and put your cell phone and then come up with a manifesto of everything that bothers you. So your ticket rep has to at least listen to your tirade. So you're at least talking to an employee. I feel like it's too simple for them to just get Rocco or the Pollads because they're going to crumble it up and be like, "Oh, this is unfortunate. Declan Goff's off the table." But if you say, "Call me," I will tell you. I will explain to you exactly what's wrong here. I feel like you can at least tie the person's time up and have some fun yourself.
Yeah, it's I don't know what that ticket rep's going to do with that information, but I agree. You
Who cares?
Might as well give them the feedback and see what happens.
Exactly.
All right, feedback Friday here. We're gonna get to some Declan apartment drama in a moment here. But this is from Ben Reimler via the SKOR North app. Just finished today's episode about Correa and the Twins, and Judd's point about the many red flags raised a question I thought would be interesting to tackle. Are media, and by extension fans, more inclined to overlook and explain away front office decisions if those leaders have charisma and have built relationships in the media? In other words, if they seem like they know what they're doing, does that lead to less external pressure? Or I'll even add, if they're just nice guys, which, by the way, Derek Falvey and Thad Levine are 2 all-time nice guys. I'm not even saying they're incompetent, but I think that what's happening on the field in the postseason has been an underachievement across the board for 6 years. And then in the regular season, it's now trickled down the last 2 years. Compare the current Twins brain trust, Ben says, to the Spielman-Zimmer administration. Spielman was pretty low-key, and Mike was obviously not a fan of the media. Falvey and Levine, meanwhile, seem to have a good rapport with the Twins writers and media, et cetera. Does that help explain the lack of curiosity about the Twins' uneven and inconsistent play?
Go ahead. You covered the beat.
From a macro perspective, the answer is absolutely. If you are, it is a wise move if you're an owner of a franchise. Like Jim Pollad doesn't even play this game because he just hides from microphones and cameras and stuff because he's very introverted and doesn't want to do this. But if you are if you're an owner or a general manager or a president of ops and you are media friendly and you're a guy that, will off the record go get a beer at training camp or spring training with someone, yeah, I mean, ultimately, like from a human standpoint, you probably subconsciously or otherwise give a little bit more grace to a person that you like on a human level. If someone's a clown, like Daniel Snyder is a clown and the organization is a train wreck, and so it's a lot easier to take the gloves off and rip Dan Snyder as an owner in Washington or, a general manager or something. I mean, think about who's the hockey coach? Gosh, why am I blanking on this?
More context.
COVID brain.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
See it starting.
Tortorella.
Oh, Torts. Yeah.
Torts, right?
Jackass.
Yeah. Like if things start to go south on one of his teams over the years, he's a jackass, right? The gloves come off.
Right.
So yeah, I think subconsciously or otherwise, it probably is a little bit harder if you get along well with the subjects that you cover. It can be. Yeah.
Boy, this is a great question, and it's basically a journalism show in some ways. Like this is an hour-long discussion, but I'll sum this up quickly by saying this. First of all, I'm going to borrow a line from one of my favorite films of all time, Roadhouse. Which is this.
Just watched that 3 nights ago.
I love that film. I will always love that film. I believe the line when Swayze is talking to the bouncers who he is now employing is, it's time to be nice until it's not time to be nice. Mm-hmm. And that's this business, which is there has to come a point, and we're there now, in my opinion, we're there. There has to come a point where your relationship cannot skew what you're covering. The Minnesota Twins, right now, what we are seeing, coupled with what we saw last year, is worth a very deep dive on what's going wrong. Like, if I was on the beat, I would be trying to, on background, work on a story about what has gone wrong here. Is it Rocco? Is it Falvey? Levine? Combination of all of them? What's Pohlad doing? Players? Like, this is the story that Chip and I did in the midst of the 2010 post-Moss release meltdown when we basically, and I had been friendly with Brad. Now, the thing that I would encourage people to keep in mind is these people are not your friends, okay? So, like, they're not coming over for dinner. They're not spending Christmas with you, but you can be friendly, as Phil knows. But at some point in time, what the issues with the franchise outweigh the relationship. It's that simple. If you are on a beat. And I'm gonna give you a guy who can be a lightning rod in this town, who I think does a magnificent job in that regard. Mike Russo. Mike Russo does a fantastic job, because you know what? Everybody with Mike knows exactly what the stakes are, which is he will cover you. He will certainly develop relationships, but as far as I can tell, it's professional. And I guarantee you, if the Minnesota Wild heads to the cellar of the National Hockey League next season, Michael Russo will be as critical of the Wild and Bill Guerin, who we all like, as anybody. That takes guts, but that's what it takes.
Yeah, it can be hard. It can be hard. I think in the industry where you really like someone as a human. Leslie Frazier's the ultimate example of this, where like everyone covering the Vikings, fans who watch the Vikings, love that guy. He's just an all-time great human being. Wasn't a great head coach. Probably had an eroding roster. It wasn't maybe the fairest setup for him, but I think he's a lot more ready. I think he deserves a second chance, and I think he would have a lot better chance now, 10 years later. But anyhow, Gabe Carlson via YouTube says, "Boss, there's way too much Twins content on this feed for a pathetic team." And you're probably right. We put a 6-month kibosh on Twins discussion about a year ago at this time. Yes. If they weren't going to be relevant, then we weren't going to, and the audience interest wasn't really there. I think the relevance ramped up when they brought in Carlos Correa, and hey, they could still make a run here. So we're not going to completely write them off from our content schedule, but it's getting pretty close. Getting pretty close at this point.
I think their disintegration, though, it has people curious, at least.
Yeah, for now. Yeah,
If they had been in last
or two.
place all year, nobody gives a damn.
Yep, I agree with that.
But when you fall apart, people are at least going to say, what happened to you?
You know what there's not enough content on this feed about is Nutrisource, okay? The official dog food of Mackie and Judd. Third generation, family-owned and operated company out of Perham, Minnesota. And Nutrisource is all about digestion and gut health, which if you look at the so that big smile you see there is Ryder. That is Stella's friend Ryder, who might be more excited than Stella is about Nutrisource.
Loves the food. He loves the food. And I will say this, Phil, at least for these two in particular, those treats are an enormous hit. Not sure about you. I'm guessing I know the answer to the question, but the treats are an enormous hit. When that bag shakes, guess who comes tail wagging? Stella the dog.
You know, I ran out of food in my COVID cave a couple nights ago, and I had one thing in the COVID cave. It was a bag of Nutrisource treats. I almost started eating them myself, based on how happy Maya is when she gets them.
They do smell good.
They do. It smells like beef jerky. So, yeah, you can find Nutrisource at many different retailers. NutrisourcePetFoods.com to find a retailer near you. NutrisourcePetFoods.com. There she is.
Look at those ears.
Good girl.
Maya's ears are very impressive.
The Chihuahua ears, man.
That's
Chihuahua
awesome.
Terrier mix.
I love dogs.
Let's get back to Feedback Friday here. Brandon Bean via the SKOR North app. I side with Declan's neighbor. Any recurring loud, obnoxious sound. I'm going to set this up real quick. So Declan tweeted out a screenshot of a letter that an anonymous apartment neighbor taped to the door of his apartment, complaining that young Vinny the dog had been barking endlessly for 7 hours. It was a very classic passive-aggressive Minnesota letter.
It was peak Minnesota. Put it in the Smithsonian or the Minnesota History Center of peak Minnesota aggressive.
But the core of the complaint through all of the passive aggressiveness was, hey, your dog is barking when you're not home. It's annoying for us living nearby you. Brandon Bean says, any recurring loud, obnoxious sounds in an apartment building are a sign of selfishness over being considerate to those around you. When you think about it, it's not really different from the guy who took the middle seat on Mackey's plane thinking only of himself. If you want to have a loud dog, move somewhere else, man.
Okay, let's set this up. So I've been living in my apartment since June with my girlfriend and dog. Moved in together, made the big decision, moved in. Vinny came with, obviously. Vinny is just had his 8th month birthday. He was born on Christmas Eve of 2021, so he's 8 months old. Now mostly full size. He's about 25, 26 pounds. Very stocky, a very stocky boy. So we have noticed shortly after we moved in, that when he is alone in his crate, he barks. I even bought one of those little cameras, little like doggy cameras. I bought it off Amazon so I can watch him through the app if we're alone. So the first couple weeks, we noticed if we were both gone from the apartment that he would bark, and we got one phone call from like our building manager, landlord. Hey, we've heard some complaints that Vinny's been barking, and we're like, we're sorry about that. We are doing the best we can. We have been doing crate training. We take him to doggy daycare. We're doing all the steps to try to figure out, also as new dog owners ourselves, to try to figure out, hey, how can we stop this barking? So we're taking all the steps necessary to try to make him stop. So the last complaint we've got officially from our own building management was June 27th. That was the last official complaint. And it was just more of, hey, just you're sort of aware people are complaining about the dog.
Was there more than one actual managerial complaint, or was that the only one?
2. There's been 2.
So you've had 2 managerial office complaints and a note taped to your door?
Here's the problem, though, with the second complaint from the managerial's part. The times that the manager came to us, Vinny wasn't at home and he was at doggy daycare. So this is a building that has 8 floors and a crap ton of dogs. It is the most dog-friendly building I have ever seen in my life. And there's also little kids, there's babies, there's a little French girl that lives down the hall from us that screams bloody murder when it's time to go to bed.
I would hate this apartment.
Does she scream in English or French?
French. She says bonjour Vinny to all the time when she walks by. It's one of the cutest things of all time.
That is great. That's the move.
So this incident, let's now get into this incident. So there's been times where, yes, we've been had complaints, but also there's been times where, hey, like, do you want the receipts of when Vinny was at doggy daycare? Because, like, this is the times you're talking about.
Are you accusing people of misconstruing Vinny with a different dog?
I am part of that is the case, yes. Because also the neighbors to my left and right, they're new neighbors, and both of them have dogs. And they even have said to us, hey, if we're ever too loud, one of them has a kid, one of them doesn't. If we're ever too loud, please let us know. Like, you know, we're chaos over here. And it was just like a nice gesture, normal, kind, friendly neighbor. So I know it's not left or right. And the apartment across from us is also vacant. So the people that are hearing this dog bark is probably below us or above us. Okay, let's get into this note now, though. All right. So this note where it says he's been barking for 7 hours. So this was taped on our door on Monday. On Monday, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., both Kelsey and I were gone from the apartment. So Vinny was barking for probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
That is annoying.
It is.
I love the Vinster, but whether it's 7 hours or 2 hours, that would drive me nuts if I lived next door, that dog's barking for 2 hours. It would drive me nuts.
Right. But they're also, like, if you walk by hallways in our apartment, dogs are barking. It's an urban apartment in the middle of downtown.
The hallway, like a chorus of dogs barking.
It is. Seriously, it happens. And
just
so
singing songs to each other.
Yes, basically, he was barking for 2 hours during that time. Okay, and then we had to go to my sister's for my nephew's birthday, and he barked from like 6 to 7:30, probably. That's when we were gone. We were gone for an hour and a half.
That's a lot of barking.
It is.
That's a
lot of barking.
Okay, but I went to St. Cloud State and also Prague Red or St. Paul Central. 11 to 1, 6 to 7:30. That's 3.5 hours.
Yep.
And that is a nuisance. My math tells me that is not 7 hours, you moron.
Well,
that is not 7 hours of barking.
But you're debating semantics. Let's take away the
semantics.
7 hours. If
they embellished it.
If they had said 3 hours on the note, how would you feel about the note?
I would feel that, okay, he is accurate on the times that we're gone. Because also the building management has been wrong on the times that we've been gone. So that is incompetence and also misinformation on both parts.
Well, and then hold on. But at the end of the day, it sucks because, like, as dog owners, and we all are dog owners, if the dog is barking when you're gone and driving neighbors crazy, like whether it's 3 hours or 7 hours, like ultimately the dog is barking when you're gone, and it's on you, the dog owner, to get the dog to not bark anymore, right?
Right. And and I just told you, we're taking all the steps necessary to try to make him stop barking. So, like, it's not like we're ignoring this. And by the way, we still have lives. We're going out to try to live our own life, but we're doing everything we can to also be at home. There's times I broadcast from home because I don't want to leave the dog alone so he doesn't bark. So we're taking those steps. And the issue I have with the note is, so when we came home from my sister's house, we were home for, I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours. I went out to take Vinny before to go to bed, and there's a note taped to the door, which means that note was taped to our door while we were home between the hour and a half that I was home and then I took Vinny out for the last time. I would rather you knock on my door and let's have a conversation over what's happening here, over the most passive-aggressive BS way to go about this. That is my core of this issue. And there's dogs all over the place. There's kids all over the place. We're living in an 8-story apartment in the middle of downtown Minneapolis in an urban area. So we're doing all the steps necessary.
Can you take the dog? Like when you go to not like your a party at your sister's.
This instance, no, I could not take the dog.
That's what we did when we had issues with our first dog, like places we would just try
and we
take
do
it.
and by like he is at
night especially.
He is at her parents' house for the last 2 days because we both have had meetings and other stuff, external stuff, where we're going to be away from the apartment for a good amount of time.
That's a good idea.
So we take all the steps necessary to try to make sure that this dog is not barking. So to say like we're going to be completely selfish over this thing is absolutely asinine. And you're in an apartment. You're in an urban apartment where all this stuff is happening, guy. So, like, how are you pinpointing it's us? And then also, how are you pinpointing the misinformation on this part? It's a whole thing.
I feel the complaint is fair, but leave your name on the note at the very least.
That's what I want. I want to just have and
I don't know,
I
man.
would have been fine.
You don't know who you're dealing with. Maybe Declan's some sort of a psycho with brass knuckles. You're going to open the door.
In a hotel, I agree. Like I would lodge anonymous complaints there. But I feel like if you're in an apartment and like You live there, and the person lives in 308 or something, and it's not going to change for some time. I feel like you should at least converse about it and be like, your dog was barking a lot. I'm just curious if you could do something about it,
I can't.
So I'll side with you on that part of it.
I can't talk too much about the anonymous note because one time, a year out of college, my roommate and I, you guys know those St. Anthony Village apartments over by the old Brasa, kind of a few blocks from the river, St. Anthony main area.
Great area.
And we lived on the first floor of that building, and one of those buildings, and we had some neighbors upstairs for about the first 2 months. I don't know, it wasn't every night, but it was like, probably 4 nights a week. Right around 9 or 9:30 at night, you'd start to hear eater, 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 eater.
And some noise too
from above us,
and some noise from the participants.
Some vocalizations.
When we lived in an Eden Prairie apartment, I had the same problem.
Oh God,
the dude! I could always hear the dude.
Yep.
It's like, oh, shut up!
And so my roommate at the time, he's always been a great artist. And so he wrote, we're like, how do we, man, at first it was kind of funny, but it's like, dude, they're like waking us up, man. We gotta sleep.
We got
so should we knock on their door? What should we do? And he said, I got an idea. So he drew a scene. He took a piece of paper and he drew like That's a 4 incredible. Quad box scene of us sleeping in our apartment and then them doing what they're doing in theirs and how it makes it hard for us to sleep. And he kind of illustrated this out in a sketch with pencils and stuff. And he taped it to their door.
Well, yeah, but that's young and young and funny.
But it stopped after we taped it to the door.
Because she was probably mortified.
Yeah, it stopped.
The girl was
month.
probably like, "Oh my God, this is so embarrassing." And then making that much noise.
And then a month later, they must have they couldn't take it.
So Dex, I would say to help here because it sounds like your problem is you're also in a building with a lot of noise. The next time you get a complaint, I would also say, how many other complaints has that person lodged? Because here's what I fear. You are the victim of people who don't have kids and dogs who randomly are calling on every apartment that they know that does.
Yeah. Is it a serial complainer?
Yeah.
Or is it a...
But I'm saying I would pick on your dog, and then let's say I know 2 doors down from you there's a dog, right? So like, I mean, you might be getting a follow-up call from your people that person got lodged 5 complaints.
Right.
That's what I'd be curious. I'd say how many complaints are coming? Because if that's the case, then you can't identify the dog.
I think there's a pie chart.
It's like a crime.
And by the way, I get Instagram ads for these like little like doggy. I don't even know what you'd call them, but you give them these little anxiety chew pills, and they just kind of sit there blazed all day. So I don't know.
We give them the melatonin ones. But now he is trained so well that he knows if we're giving those that we're going away. So now he doesn't need them because he knows that we're going away. So he's getting smarter about the whole process.
Yeah, that's a good dog.
So we're and I can't give him like the CBD stuff because he's still a puppy. He's still 8 months old, and they don't advise doing that when he's still young. So trust me, we're doing everything possible to try to make him stop. It's not like we're being completely negligent on our part.
No, but I think there's a pie chart here of there's probably a serial complainer in your building that is passive aggressive and loves to write notes. It's probably not the first time they've done it. And then there's just the other part of the pie chart, which is, you're responsible for your dog barking for 3 hours when you're gone, and you live in a shared space, and it sucks. Anyhow, if anyone has any advice for Declan or just wants to light him up one way or the other, the YouTube comment section and the feedback
Vinster,
tab,
though, man. I love
great.
the Vinster.
He's a good boy.
Poor Vinny.
He is.
Why can't you just explain to dogs,
Plus,
like, hey, it's going to be okay? Vinny, you can just, here's the remote, Vinny. You can turn on whatever you want. Just chill out, dude.
Here's a problem, too, that I've seen, and this is the issue when people without dogs or kids move into buildings with a lot of both. If Vinny is in his crate, like it's daytime, right? And you guys are gone. And let's say he's going to take a nap, okay? One dog down the hallway starts barking. They all go.
Chain reaction.
Right, exactly right. And then it's all hell breaks loose. And here's my advice. If you live in 405 and you're my age and just a scowling bad mood dude, move.
You
You got to get out.
Yeah.
You got to get out. And I'm going to say this right now, too. God bless them. But kids in apartments who start crying, that ain't no great shakes.
But not everyone can afford a house. Not everyone. I mean, sometimes
I'm
people live
saying,
in apartments because that's where they have to live.
I agree. But what I'm saying is there are a lot. But if you are like a single couple, like if you are Dawn and I, and let's say we didn't have a dog, okay? And we moved into a building that we knew was filled with dogs and kids, that's an us problem.
Yes.
Then we should be in an apartment that isn't like there are a lot of buildings that don't allow pets. Okay,
but
now they're gone.
But there's no such thing as a building that doesn't allow kids.
I know,
Unless you
but
live
you
in a
don't have
55
to.
and older community.
But you can ask. You
I
can
know
ask as
with
you're
the
moving
amount
in.
You
of
cannot ask that question.
I get back to you.
They cannot tell you. Here's the demographics of people who live here and here. I mean, they could be general.
I'm not going to ask like for complete. I'm just going to take an assessment of are there lots of kids here?
I know for a fact with the way this letter is written, the amount of semicolons, this person's average age is 45 to 55.
And the semicolon is a dying thing.
So
What is wrong
sort of
with
sad.
45 to 55-year-olds?
I'm just saying that if it's an older person who's living in an apartment that is between
Declan's
20 and
right about
30-year-old
this. Get
people,
out. Get
you're
out.
kind of setting yourself up for failure, dude.
I'm talking to myself here. Get out. Yeah, if you don't like it, if you move into a pet building and you're like, too much noise, you're an idiot.
I agree with you.
Amazing. All right.
I'm not saying now. I do think that
A
Dukes
little
had
personal
the best
responsibility
advice.
here goes a long way. Okay.
Had the best advice, which is
Buy a house.
as soon as Dex can. with
you
the gal,
could buy a house too, though. That's what people are
That's
saying
what
to
we're
you.
buy
Yeah,
a house,
and
right?
we're gonna do that.
But I think he'd
We're probably
like
gonna do that.
But you can't move into a building with pets and be like, "How is there so much pet noise?"
Yes.
You're an idiot then.
Yes.
Amazing.
Like there's just like this is life, man. There's blame to
Thank
go
you.
around. There's so much blame to go around. We all want to
Never been
like
more
choose
thankful
our
for Judd.
sides. We all want to choose this is my side. And you know what? This is why I love sports, because we can choose sides in sports. In real life, got to work down the margins, man, right down the middle.
All right. There's some life advice there for all of you from Judd, and that is Feedback Friday here on Mackie and Judd.